Welcome back to the Adventure Athletes podcast, world's #1 podcast for adventure athletes, celebrating stories of those going through virtuous struggles in order to benefit the world around them. In this week's episode, I sit down with Ed Hack, who happens to be the first guest to come on the podcast twice. In this week's episode, we talk about his experience cycling across the length of California, how he got into cycling in the first place, his near-death experience while cycling, how support doesn't lessen your achievements, and why days off are so important. Now, at the end of each episode, our guest sets you guys a weekly challenge, and if you want to check out any of our previous weekly challenges, head over to adventureathletes.co.uk and check out our podcast section where we've got loads of resources and behind the scenes from the podcast. Now, in each episode, I give out a shout out to someone that's been inspiring me or someone that's been really helpful in my life. This week, the shout out is going to go to Sam Jones, who acted as our Jamie for Joe Rogan, where he did a live edit of the podcast and pulled up different facts throughout the episode. Now, as you guys know, I am doing a world record attempt where I'm going to be trying to do the greatest distance covered flipping a tyre in 24 hours. So if you want to donate to my fundraiser, I will be fundraising for BigMoose. Check out the link in the description below where you'll find various other links relating to this episode too. But for now, enjoy the podcast. Let's get into this then. Hello. You are the first guest to make 2 appearances on the Adventure Athletes podcast.
2 appearances.
How do you feel?
I feel honoured. Dude, it's really nice to be back here. Lovely to be back in your presence, man. I love being here. I love the drive down. I love sharing my stories with you and also the Adventure Athletes community and everything. The WhatsApp group is popping. It's so fun seeing what all the other guys are doing in there. So yeah, honoured to be back.
The guys are doing some pretty mad shit right now, aren't they?
Dude, always.
So we just had Grant do his first of 400 milers. So that was insane.
Wow, yeah, because I was looking in the chat of that. Every time I refresh that chat, it's just inspiration. Like, you know, it was like, oh, Grant's done 24 miles, nearly a marathon. Oh, Grant's done 65 miles or something. And then it was like straight to the 100. Wow, it all just happens so fast and we're all doing something, which is really wicked, yeah.
And everyone's different. They're all on their own journeys. We got like Reece Jenkins just ticking away in the background, which I don't think you would have really heard much of because he never posts anything. But he runs a lot of the events. So that ultra that Mike did, that he's doing the slam for, where he's doing 7 ultras in 6 months, Reece organises all of them. But he also he ran across America from Boston to Austin, 2,000 miles.
Oh yeah, because he's not too active in the chat, I don't think. He hasn't been too live, or I haven't seen what he does.
Yeah, he's not active at all.
Wow.
But
he's been on the podcast?
him as well. Yeah, he's been on the podcast.
I need to see that episode. I haven't seen that episode.
Mate, check it out. You got some catching up to do.
I do need to catch up. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna scroll through and see what I can find.
Yeah.
What was the guy's name again?
Reece Jenkins.
Reece Jenkins.
Yeah.
Cool. That's one to watch out for.
He's done some incredible things.
Awesome.
So, yeah, check it out. The way I start all of my podcasts now, I ask the guests the same question, and that is, I talk about, do you know about the hero's journey?
Not so much.
So it's basically like the foundation of a story, essentially, where you've got this hero there. I always use Lord of the Rings, it's a great example.
Yeah.
You've got Frodo in the Shire, living his normal life, just chilling out, eating potatoes. Gandalf comes along and he's like, oh yeah, here's this ring, let's take it to Mordor.
Yeah.
And you've got that call to action. That was his call to action, is finding the ring. And then it changes his life. It sets him on this path to transform his life.
Yeah.
And then everything that else happens, that's Lord of the Rings. So if you want to find out, watch Lord of the Rings for anyone listening.
Yeah.
But it's all about that initial call to action. What is your call to action?
Dude.
What was your call to adventure? What
I know it.
changed your life?
I know what it is.
Yeah.
I know exactly what it is for me. It was when, I don't know the exact day, but I know exactly what it was. It was when my bike got stolen from the bike sheds when I was 12 or maybe between the ages of 12 and 14. My bike that I got for Christmas, my mum wrapped it in that kind of way, where it's obviously a bike, wrapped really beautifully. And it was like this X-rated, it had X-rated written on it, big black thing, big chunky tires. And I was like, yes, as a kid, I was like, this is the coolest present ever. And then I took it to school, met like a few times. And then I remember maybe it was only I had the bike for 2 months. So I was still honeymoon phase with the bike, you know what I'm saying? And then it got stolen. I pulled up at the bike sheds, it wasn't there. And I was like, that's funny, did I not cycle into school? And I was like, no, I definitely cycled into school. And man, I was distraught. And what it made me realize is how much I love cycling. I think that's when, that is actually the moment when I was like, bikes are amazing. Bikes are just this amazing machine that not only was I gifted for Christmas, but it allows you to travel so far with just the human form, just with human energy. Or, there's electric bikes now, obviously, but...
Which we'll be getting into in a bit.
We'll be getting into, yeah, absolutely. So that was the very, very beginning for me. That's when I first really fell in love with cycling, really fell in love with bikes, because I was just waiting to get my next bike. I was also really angry at the person that stole it. I hope they had some cool adventures with it. That's all I can. That's the positive, optimistic side of it. But yeah, and then I remember I got a bike again. The next thing that I did that again just made me fall in love with long distance cycling was. There was a charity event at my school when I was a little bit older. I was probably maybe 14 to 15, 16 now. And I was going to school in Tadley. I live in Basingstoke. It's maybe an 11-mile journey, so it's not very far. But for a kid, I was thinking I want to cycle that distance. I want to cycle to school and raise money for charity for that little cycle. I say little now, but back then it was huge. It was I'd never cycled to school. I'd always got the bus, and the bus is like a teleporter. You just get on and you get off, and suddenly you're at school. You see the world go by, but you don't feel it, unless the window's open. But it's not the same. So, yeah, I cycled to school, 11 miles there, 11 miles back, and for me that was massive. And I was like, how far can I push this? Then I did. In my house to Bournemouth, 70 miles when I was a little bit older, then Rome to the UK when I was a little bit older again, and then UK to Singapore, which was 10,000 miles, and recently did the north of California to the south of California for this amazing organisation, mental health organisation, Soluna. So yeah, always loved cycling. It's been my absolute life. And I know I will never find that bike that got stolen. But it gave me something much greater.
Yeah. That's why you're back on here as well, is your California cycle. Because last time we scratched the surface on your world tour, doing the 10,000 miles. But yeah, now we're here to talk about California. So start at the beginning. How did it come about?
Okay, so it came about, let me see. So basically Chris, a guy called Chris, lovely guy, love him so much, got in touch with me. And he was working in the marketing department of this company called Kooth. And they do loads of stuff with mental health, amazing organisation. They've helped so many young people and older people as well, and kids, the whole every single age range they help, basically, in some way, shape or form. And he reached out to me and he said, Ed, we're launching this amazing service in California. It's called Soluna, and it helps young people that are struggling with mental health get support via a phone line and an app. And he said, we're looking to launch this service, and what we want you to do is go from the very north. He basically said, we're going to go from the very north to the very south of California, and the cycle trip that I was going to be doing from the north to the south is going to symbolize the coverage of the service. That's what it was. So even in the remotest regions of California, people can go and get help via this app and this service. They have a phone line as well, 24/7, 19 plus languages. It's like a proper full-blown massive launch of a mental health service. So I heard that and I was like, mental health, I'm in, super close to my heart. Cycling, I'm in. And I was like, yeah, just give me the dates and I will make myself available to do this incredible thing. So yeah, that's how it all started. Big love out to Chris. And then I met the wider team as well. I met Kaiser, lovely guy. Oh my God. Every single person I met in the team was just an absolute godsend. They were just all so beautiful. And I've always been this quite lone wolf-ish person where I have my vision and I find it hard to let other people into my vision sometimes. But this was like working with a wider team. They offered me a support van, which I didn't initially want. I was saying, no, I just want to do this myself, because that's how I did the UK to Singapore when I did that self-supported. And then they told me that I was going to be doing a supported one, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. It feels like cheating, or it feels like it's then going to take the challenge away from me, because that's important to me. I like to push myself. But actually, through the whole journey, I learned that support and having support is okay. It's great for it to be there. Like, you never know when you're going to need it. So for me, it was actually a real journey of self-discovery as well.
Yeah. I think that's a great sort of metaphor for mental health as well, is you're on this journey and you're trying to like push through, and you're like, no, I've always done this alone. I'm going to keep doing it alone. But then when you finally accept the help that others are offering you, it then just makes it that much easier. And you're like, no, I want to do it alone. I don't want to cheat. But it's not cheating. Like, you're just getting help.
It's not cheating. Not cheating at all. That's the thing. It doesn't take anything away from your journey to go and seek help at all. You can still achieve the incredible things. In fact, there was a talk that was done by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he said, he was stood up, he was on a podium of some kind, he was receiving an award, and he went up there and he said, this award is not just for me, it's for everybody that's helped me along my journey, because I wouldn't be stood here if it wasn't for everybody else, So I can also say that about the Soluna team. I wouldn't have gotten to the finish line if it wasn't for the support that I received from the support van, because there was certain issues with like a motorway that we couldn't cross at one point, and we tried to go a different way. There's a whole story behind this that we can get into in a minute. With a very angry man, which we can talk about. But yeah, you just never know when you're going to need support, and it takes nothing away from your challenge if you use it. And support comes in so many different ways. It comes in emotional support. It comes in the teachings that somebody has given to you many years previously that have helped you through. It's just like such a massive player. Support is key for everybody.
Yeah, I think this is where what you're doing with Soluna and their mental health app, and what I'm doing with BigMoose, I think that's a real testament to how much it can help. Like, I'm giving this talk next week, which is going to be all about vulnerability, but I learnt that through getting help. I wouldn't be where I am without the therapy that I was given, and you wouldn't have been able to cross California without the support you was given. Well, I mean, you probably would, but it would have made things a hell of a lot harder. And although you could do it, it's like, you don't have to do it.
Yeah. This has actually just connected a few dots in my head, which are really interesting. Okay. And I'm excited to share this. So, I cycled through two really big storms out there. At the very beginning, there was a winter storm. And at the very, not the very end, sorry, in the middle, there was another storm. It was called an atmospheric river, because there were these two sort of giant storms that then formed this massive push, this like huge pressure coming up from the Pacific coast inland. And at one point, I was battling like 65 miles per hour winds, trying to go up mountains, and it was just impossible. And my best friend joined me at that point. We'll go back to the start in a minute, but this story here resonates with the whole support thing and not taking support. So when my best friend came out, he joined for the hardest part, the second storm. 65 mile per hour winds. We were absolutely getting battered. There was like 100 tumbleweeds going across this field at one point, and they were all rolling towards us, which is a completely different. Sorry, changing that's just really. No, it's all good. We can. Yeah, six. That's good. Thanks, Jamie. we got
if it's
Sam
too loud for you, Sam, turn your headphones down on the bottom. You're number 2.
Cool, that's all good. We can chop it up in editing and figure it out. But so my best friend joined me for one of the hardest, most intense parts of the journey, and that was crossing over this mountain range during the atmospheric river storm, which was just so intense. And at this point, I had gotten so used to being out in the cold and in the wet that I almost didn't think to rest, to try to tackle the challenges in better conditions. I'd just gotten to the point where I just didn't think about that anymore, because I didn't think to support myself. I was just like, I'm just gonna keep going and keep going and keep going. I had this mindset of like, I must just keep going. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. Progress at all costs. And my friend who joined me, he absolutely smashed it. Absolutely smashed it. But it got to the point where he was like, Ed, you realise you can just like wait a day and then the conditions get better. But I just, for some reason, didn't see it that way. And it got to the point, actually, where I broke down. And I think well, because the thing is, he could do it as well. This is the thing, right? My friend could match that, and he could do it, but it was just miserable. But when you've been out in the miserable conditions for so long, the miserable conditions become normal, and you habituate to that stress. That stress just becomes what the trip is. And it was so nice to get an outside perspective, my friend to come in and say, Ed, this is not good. Like, why are you going through these conditions when you can literally just sleep through the storm and tackle the same road tomorrow in good conditions? And it took me a breakdown to realise quite how deep into the stress my body was. Like, I just didn't see how tough I was making it for myself. And this is a thing that I've done a lot of times in my life, I think, and kind of resonates throughout many different stories in many different ways.
Yeah. And the craziest thing about that as well is, not only would you be able to just wait and do the same road, different conditions the next day, you'd probably be more productive doing that rather than battling, like pushing through, being like, oh, this is shit, but I'm going to keep going, and you're just absolutely getting wrecked. And then you still go out and cycle the next day in better conditions, and you're further along, but your body's so tired you can't give good output. Yeah. Whereas if you just take that day to rest and then be like, no, I'm going to rest here, and then tomorrow I'm going to push when the conditions are better, you'll probably cover more in that day than you would have the two like lesser days.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. Yeah, you could cover more in a day with good conditions than you can on a day with terrible conditions. And we were battling like one of the largest storms that California had ever seen, like in recorded history. It was one of the most ridiculous storms. I can't remember like the statistics right now. Jamie, maybe we can pull it up. the California atmospheric river storm that happened at the start of 2024. It was mega.
Come on, if this was really Jamie, I'd have it up by now.
Yeah,
we got Jamie off Wish. he's fumbling about. Come on, Jamie. Yeah, that's a great story to go along with that sort of metaphor there. Yeah, all the pieces are coming together for that.
Yeah.
What was this other story about the angry man?
The angry man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness, he was angry. He was angry. Oh, okay. So where do I begin? So we basically were trying to cover all of the ground from the north to the south by bike. We didn't want to have to use the support van at any point. And when I say we, that's me and my best friend who joined for some part of it. Me and the bike. I didn't want to get in that support van at all. So we got to this point, it's called the Grapevine. There's one road that connects the north to the south of California through this mountain range. There's other roads you can take, but the one that we tried to go down was called the Grapevine Road. It's like a 3-lane motorway. It's massive and literally slices the mountains in half. So we got to the entrance and there's this big sign. No bikes. You can't go through. So we decide to look on the map, and Google Maps tells us that there's another little road, little windy thing, the off-piste route, that goes through the same mountains and comes out the other side. It's slightly longer, slightly steeper, but it would get us there. So we cycle down this road, and we get to the entrance of this gate. And there's no signs on this gate that say it's private property, right? So we go through the gate, we're just going down this road, following Google Maps, and then this big truck pulls up, right, this Land Rover thing. This guy is in there, he says, boys, you can't come down here, this is private property. And I'm like, what? Okay, but Google Maps says that we can. And he says, well, if Google's got it wrong, you can't go through here, this is private property, right? So I politely say to this guy, I say, look, we've got this challenge going on. We're trying to get from the north to the south without using support. I mean, obviously support was there, but we're trying to get there on the ground, on the bike. And we just want to go through your land here. We're not going to do anything. We just wonder if we can get permission. We're just going to seek permission. And he said, nope. And I said, okay, well, is it possible? And I said this very calmly as well. I said, is it possible just to maybe speak to the person that owns the land and just see if we can get permission to go through? And then he sort of goes, let me see. He gets on his phone and he walks away from us. And I was thinking, why is he walking away? I turn around to Paul and I say, dude, I hope we can get through because I really don't want to get in the support van right now. Like, this will be the first time that I've actually gotten in the support van to get, like, through an area, you know. I didn't want to have to do that. And so I start thinking, right, he's been on the phone for a long time. So I walk over to the guy and on the phone, I can hear, and this is why he walked away. He was there going, oh, there's this angry cyclist. He is, he's not listening to me. I've told him already he can't go through, and he's getting really irate, and he's getting very angry. And I said to the guy, I was like, whoa. I literally was just seeking permission to see if we could go through. I wasn't being angry with you. I just was like, trying to ask nicely, right? So anyway, he hangs up the phone and he says, okay, the big boss is coming. Oh boy. So 20 minutes later, an even bigger truck pulls up with an even bigger man inside. And he's got his arm out the window like, he's like, what seems to be the problem here, boys? And I look at him and I say, hi there, sir, lovely to meet you. What's your name? I can't remember what his name was at this point. Began with E. It was a really cool name, actually. It had Arabic roots or something. And I said to him, I said, hey, look, we're just trying to cross through your land here. I'm sorry to bring you out. I just wondered whether or not me and my friend could get your permission to cross your private property here. If not, that's absolutely... And then he stopped me in the middle of my sentence. And he said, let me stop you right there. And he opened the car door and then stepped out. And he was like 6'5", big guy. And he looks down at me and he goes, you've disrespected my sheriff. You've disrespected me. You've wasted my time. And I was there like, oh no. And I was like trying not to crack. I was like, oh my God, this guy's really not happy. And in my head, I was thinking this could have just been a phone call. If the original guy passed me the phone, I would have said to him, hi, do you mind if we cross your land? And then he would have said no on the phone, and I would have said, cool, no problem. But it ended up getting escalated, and then the guy came out and was just so angry. So he was like, you disrespecting my sheriff? And I was there thinking, oh my God, I did not mean to disrespect your sheriff. I was just asking. And thankfully, after he'd had his talk, after he whipped my ass a little bit, he then decided to listen to us again. And we literally just said, look, man, we did not mean any disrespect. We just wanted to see if we could cross through. And we clearly can't, and that's fine. We'll go a different way. And then he was like, oh, you're not angry? And I was like, no, of course I'm not angry. But the other guy had freaking told him I was angry. I wasn't angry at all. I was like just wondering. So, anyway, after that, we kind of neutralized it. And the guy was then telling us how much of the land he owned, and it was wild. He literally like pointed to a distant mountaintop, and he was like, you see that mountain over there? I own that mountain. And then he was like, you see those ones over there? I own that one as well. He was like, guess how many cows we've got on our ranch? We've got 60,000 cows. And I was like, wow. He actually owned a massive amount of land. And I think he may have owned one of the largest plots of private property in the whole of California, from my understanding. I'm not going to reveal this guy's identity or where the land... Oh no! I mean, you know where the land was, near the grapevine or whatever. But I don't know the name of his farm.
Yeah.
But it was big. And basically to end that, we couldn't go through, and we had to then go back around, and then we had to get in the support van for that one section. It was 5 miles out of the whole 1,300 miles, 1,200 miles. We had to go through 5 miles in the support van to just do this one piece of the grapevine because we couldn't go through that guy's road.
That is an insane, like, just 5 miles or just like cycling on his land. What's the wrong with that? Like, I don't get it. But
yeah, I don't get it either. But it's one of those things, you know. I never try and force anything. I think when you start to force things, then things can start getting heated. But I was literally just testing the waters with him. I was just saying, hey, is this possible? Can we get your permission? I just would love to know. But because the guy had hyped up that we were angry, he came out with his tail feathers ruffled. And that's when we had to cool him down. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely the right person for that sort of stuff. Like me, I would have just got irate and
nutting him,
full blown argument. Whereas like you're very like, no, like everything's good, bro. Everything's good. Yeah. Like there's never anything wrong for you. It's just everything's good, man. Like sorry, we'll just go around. Like we'll just cycle like an extra 1,000 miles if we have to. Like doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd be like, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'd have just tried to race him across.
Catch me if you can. He just pedal off and he's like, just turns on his Land Rover like, boys, what are you doing? No, so actually, I love that mentality so much. The whole no problem mentality. I love it so much, and in fact, I learned that mentality whilst I was cycling to Australia. I've kind of always had it, but it really came to light when I was cycling to Australia, and I went through Turkey, and my god, the people there, they just have this no problem mentality, and they have this phrase, problem yok or sorun yok. It just means no problem. Anytime you think you might have a problem, to them it was no problem. They know someone who can sort out your issue. And I loved it so much. I actually got it tattooed on my leg.
Problem yok.
Problem yok.
That
no problem. Yeah, no problem. Because I think anytime there's a problem, you're trying to force something. I mean, not always. We could dive into that. That's a whole topic. But I feel like when something becomes a problem, it's because something is trying to be forced. A round peg is trying to squeeze into a square hole.
Yeah.
Something's up.
I think
something's broken, you know.
That's where not our mentality, because I think we've got similar mentalities, but I think that's where our approach has changed. Because you're like, yeah, that's not a problem. Let's go around, find a different way. Like, there's going to be something else. Whereas I'm like, no, this is what I want. I'm making that happen, and I will force that square peg through a round hole. I will. One way or another, I am like smashing my way through that.
The edges are getting sheared off. It's going in. yeah, for sure.
It won't always go well, but I'll make it happen. And you're just like, no, I'll find another way.
Yeah.
So two very different like approaches to the same issue.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a tricky one, you know, because obviously I also was representing Soluna whilst I was out there, so I couldn't upset anyone either. Not that I would, you know.
Yeah.
Not that I would, but yeah, obviously representing Soluna, I had to be on my best behaviour, and I was the whole time as well. I don't think at any point I did anything that they wouldn't approve of. So. You know, obviously that's up to them to decide whether they approve or disapprove. But I cannot wait to release the full video. I honestly cannot wait. So I have this weird thing where I need to like spiritually decompress after a big trip. I don't know what it is. It's like I need to just process something, like all the feelings and thoughts and feelings that emerge from the trip, all the things that happen within the trip, the anger, all the emotions, like not that I bottle it up, but like it needs some time to like dissipate off. It kind of blows off like waves. And like I now finally feel ready after that 6-week trip to edit the video. I feel ready now.
Yeah.
I feel like if I edit it straight after, I get this sense of like it's all too fresh and I'm a little bit emotionally attached to the story, whereas if I wait a little while, I can then process the story a little bit more objectively and like kind of watch it almost for the first time through my own eyes again, instead of having it all so fresh, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I'm ready.
So you brought up then that it was 6 weeks. That was going to be my next question, was how long you were cycling for. So you were cycling for about 6 weeks to cross 1,300 miles?
Yeah, 1,300 miles. It was actually 5 weeks to do the cycle.
Okay.
Which you could have done it it could be done in a much shorter time than that. But yes, 5 weeks 1,300 miles total, including all the windy bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So along that then, what was the hardest point? What was like the hardest point where you was like, either I'm not going to make this, or this is just pure misery? Like, what was the hardest point along that whole trip?
Probably like day 5.
Day 5.
Yeah.
Early doors.
Day 5. So I mentioned there were 2 storms. Storm number 2 was the atmospheric river storm, huge storm. Much more of like a directional wind assault from the Pacific. Storm 1 was a winter storm. And at the very start of the trip, it was an absolute blizzard. Absolute blizzard. The team were even telling me, they were saying, Ed, we don't want you to leave. And I'd done all the preparation up to that point. And I remember being stood at the very first day. I was looking down the road, and it was just a whiteout blizzard, like 5 inches thick of like sheet ice on the roads, like compact snow, super slippery. I had to keep my handlebars dead straight. I even tested a fall. Like I tested turning the wheel and kind of anticipated it and jumped off, nearly stacked it just trying that. Like, I mean, like the bike fully fell down, but I landed on my feet and then slid again. And I was like, oh my God. And that was the test one. So the support driver saw that and he was like freaking out. And he was on the phone at this point to Kaiser and saying, we're not sure if this is possible. It's dangerous, you know, it was dangerous. And the visibility was like terrible as well. You could probably only see for like 20 meters ahead. And there were cars still going up and down, snow plows and everything. And there's me with my bike and the lovely, yellow and orange, yellow and purple jacket that they'd got me, you know. I was out there, just this one little man ready to tackle a 1,300 miles. So I remember Kaiser on the phone saying, Ed, get back in the support van now. Get back in that van. And I said to Kaiser, brother, I respect what you're saying, but I can do this. I've done the preparation. I've got all of the gear. I just need to test the first kilometre, and then I'll come back and I'll say to you guys whether or not it's actually achievable. So I say to Doug, the support driver, also a lovely guy. Can't wait to talk about the support drivers. They were so cool. I say to Doug, I'm going to go down the road 1 kilometre, and then I'm going to come back. Okay? Just wait here for me. I won't be long. So I shoot off down the road, keeping my handlebars dead straight. I'm getting covered in like ice and snow already. Like it's like I'm wearing like a full face balaclava with like just my eyes showing. I'm getting covered in like a layer of snow. It's building up instantly. And I'm like going down it, and I'm like, this is intense. I get like 500 meters down the road, and I'm like, I'm going to turn back now and tell them I can do it, because I know I can. It was hard and it was terrifying, but I knew with the support, maybe if the support wasn't there, I wouldn't have done it. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'll put some thought into that. But anyway, I went back and I said to Doug, look, Doug, it's bearable. We can do it. It's going to be tough, but it's bearable. And then I said, look, if you just go to the next town, it was maybe, at this point, the towns were really sparsely populated. It was like 20 miles to the next tiny town that didn't even have a shop in it. And then another 20 miles to like a slightly larger town with like maybe one small convenience store that like is open for short hours. So it was like pretty hairy, really isolating. And I said, look, if you meet me in like 2 towns time, about, 30 miles down the road, something like that, then I'll just check in with you and let you know I'm safe. And I said, if I'm not there, come and search for me, because there was like not much signal. So it was definitely a push at the start, and to have support in that moment, it's one of those things where in the moment you're looking at support and you realize you have support, and you don't think about what it would be like without them, because maybe without support I wouldn't have made the judgment call to actually leave in those conditions.
Yeah. It's that safety net, isn't it?
Yeah.
So at what point did that then turn into almost wanting to give up?
Oh, that was day 5. Sorry. So that was day 1. Sorry, I went into I went into day 1 there. That was the moment of leaving. But day 5 was the one where I was like, I'm hating this. Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad.
Why?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just like, I'm remembering it.
Reliving the moment. Got a bit of PTSD there.
Yeah. So basically, I'd done well, right? So day 1 to 7 was like in this icy winter storm, and day 5 was the worst day by far. So what happened on day 5 was there were 2 options. There was this dual carriageway that went through a really tiny, like winding mountain pass, and it was like cars going past really fast. There was no hard shoulder, really quite dangerous conditions, especially with like low visibility. And then there was this other route. So that was route 1. There's this other route which was like a straight line that went a little bit more backcountry and then popped out in a slightly different place called Chester. So one way went to Reading and one way went to Chester. And they both connected back up in a place called Chico. So they both would connect to the same place, but they were just different ways. One's a dual carriageway with really dangerous, no hard shoulder, winding mountain road. The other way is this more isolated straight road across. So I was looking at these 2 options and I was thinking, well, I'm going to go for the more isolated but straight road. It just looked really straight on the map. And, you know, other people had done it. There were like some pictures. It looked quite out there, but also still like possible to do, you know?
Yeah.
Didn't raise my alarm bells too much. Yeah. I took that road and I missed a turning on the road. So I was going down, I missed a turning, and I was like, I didn't even see a turning. I'd overshot my road that was the big long straight one. So I turned back around, and as I turn back around, I look on the ground, and there's these prints in the snow. There's these like freaking mountain lion prints, like big, you know, they're clearly paw prints, maybe a bear or something. And I was like, oh my God, I'm really out here now. And I was like, what road did I miss? I can't have missed a road. It's just one road. And I cycled back up the hill, and then I get to the turning that I was supposed to take, and I look down this road. It was this unploughed, untarmacked backcountry track with like hundreds of paw prints and animal prints all going through it. And I hadn't bought bear spray, and I hadn't bought anything to fend off a wild animal, which was really stupid. But like, I'm gonna straight up acknowledge that was a bad decision, because being from the UK, we have nothing to worry about over here. We don't have mountain lions. Worst thing, you can get attacked by a wild boar. But I'd love to see the statistics on wild boar attacks in the UK, because they surely don't happen. Out there were hundreds of tracks on the ground. Some of them looked like hooves. Some of them were paws. There was just so many. And I remember going down this path, and it was 20 kilometers down this straight, tiny dirt track. 20 kilometers of this. And it got worse. As I started going, I called my girlfriend, because I still had some signal. And I remember saying to her, right, she knows I do YouTube. So I picked up the phone with her, and I said, Charlotte, I'm quite scared. Like, genuinely really quite scared. Can you just stay on the line with me? And she was like, oh, shut up. You're doing this for YouTube, aren't you? And I was like, babe, no. I'm actually freaking out. Like, I'm in the middle of nowhere with no protection. I'm seeing paw prints on the ground. There's lots of wild animals around me. I don't know what's out there. I'm isolated. My support van can't get to me even if they wanted to. And I've got to go through 20 kilometers. At this point, I'm 5 kilometers down, isolated with like my tires slipping around in deep, icy, muddy puddles and my wheels clogging up. And I was like, Charlotte, please stay on the phone. Like, I was actually really quite scared. And then I went another kilometre further and I lost signal. And I was just out in the middle of nowhere, dude, with all of these paw prints. And every single, like, we've all watched nature documentaries, yeah? We've all watched a nature documentary where there's one bison at the back of the pack that gets eaten by the tiger or something, right? I felt like every single time I fell off my bike, maybe 20 times that day. Like 20 times I fell off my bike that day because I just would try to go and then would like slip out, and every time I'd fall, I would like lock eyes with the woods and the bushes around me, and I'd be like, come on then, who wants it? Who wants it? I'll have ya. Because if a lion or a bear attacked me out there, I would have to fight it with my life force, dude. I'd have to. I had nothing. I should have gone out there with a bear spray. I should have gone out there with anything. And I acknowledged that was a bad decision, and looking back, I would definitely change that, because I was terrified. And I remember eventually, I was in that state of fear for so long that I habituated to that stress. Now that was interesting, because I remember being stood in the middle of this place. I could still see loads of tracks around me, but I felt like one of those wild animals. As weird as it sounds, like I remember being like, I'm through the fear. I'm just here now, and if something attacks me, just fucking do it. Just attack me. Like, I was at the point where if something leapt out at me, I would fight it like an animal. And I just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get out, so I just kept pushing forwards. That's all I could do. Just keep pushing forwards. That's all I could do. And I remember there was this, like, because the track, it stayed bad for 20 kilometres, and it just got worse. And then it got a little bit better, and then it got worse again, and then it got steep and worse. And I had to push my bike. And I couldn't even cycle to get away from anything if it was to jump out. Thankfully, the whole time it didn't. But if it did, I would have just been... I was just on my feet. I was just a person stuck around in slippery, unploughed snow and mud. It was vulnerability at its deepest, most existential level.
Yeah.
And I feel like it does change you a little bit. Like, I know fear, like, and it sucks. Man, I did get out. Eventually. I remember I was expecting, because the road on Google Maps was just a big long straight road, I was expecting to just eat that up. I looked at the height profile, it wasn't that bad. I just didn't realise it would be so unploughed and so remote and so muddy. And yeah, I remember getting out many hours after I expected to tarmac, and I still had no signal, and it was getting dark. The first tarmac road I found, I just broke down in tears, and I just was so thankful to be out of that unharmed.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. There were some moments of real serenity amongst the fear, but like, I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah. Being from the UK, same as you, I fully understand how we take for granted how safe it is here.
Like, it really is, bro.
I went to Canada, and when I was in Canada, I was in Squamish.
Yeah.
Which is part of, like, it's like near Vancouver. I'm in bear country.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was in bear country. I was sleeping in the forest, bro.
Yeah.
Just in a sleeping bag, no tent, nothing. I was just sleeping in the forest in a sleeping bag. And then it was only when I got back to the UK and I was telling people, like, oh, yeah, I was sleeping there, just out in this forest. They're like, there's bears there? And I was like, oh, I didn't see any bears. They're like, look at the flag for Vancouver. It's got a bear on it.
Literally a bear. Same as California. There's a bear on the flag.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, I honestly had no idea. They're like, do you know what bears would have done to you if they found you? Like, that was it. Like, you'd be done. And I was like, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Didn't even cross my mind, because we don't have it in the UK.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. I've made that mistake a couple of times in my life, where we don't have something in the UK, we simply don't have to worry about it. We go to somewhere else. I made that mistake in Iceland. Went to Iceland, rented a city car, decided to try and drive it across the outback of Iceland in the middle of winter. It's so bad out there. The winter in Iceland is nothing like the silly inch of snow that we get over here per year. They get like an inch per hour for 3 days. Yeah. Take note, if you're a UK citizen listening to this podcast.
If you go abroad, do your research.
It's a dangerous place out there. Yeah. No, it was wild, man. Really, really crazy. If I could go again, one thing I would change is to take a bear spray or take some form of protection.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, to add to that, and also this is a really interesting perspective if you're a UK citizen as well. I now understand gun laws in California and America far more, because if you're out there and the only protection you have is your Glock, whatever, your Glock on your hip or something, you're going to use it. But I think the issue with gun laws out in the US, and again, I'm very excited to see what people might say about this whole thing, right? I think the issue with gun laws, I reckon they were initially put in place to fend off wild animals and for farmers to protect their livestock. However, I do think that there's a double-edged sword effect going on here, because I wonder if the gun laws in the city I just wonder if the people in the city that have guns, they see other humans as the threat because there's no wild animals there, whereas the farmers, they need the guns for the actual threat, which is the wild animals. Yeah. And then I think there's a double standard where people have the gun and they feel like they should be afraid of something when they're in the city.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that guns were initially put in place for wild animals and things like that. I might need a fact check on that.
Jamie, pull it up. Yeah, that's quite interesting. I've not heard that perspective before about gun laws and any of that. Again, something we don't have to think about in the UK, because it's like guns are definitely illegal. There's no way you can really get by with a gun unless you're a farmer or something and you've gone through like stringent licensing to get it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Jamie pulls up now.
Yeah, very interested to see. I do wonder if they were implemented, if they started having guns to fend off wild animals.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
You found anything there?
It's just to do with the Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment, yeah.
Guarantees the right to bear arms.
So the Second Amendment bears the right to... Sorry, say again one last time?
Guarantees the right to bear arms.
Guarantees the right to bear arms, but for what?
Good question. Any American people listening, give us a shout. I know I've got a few from my little Spotify analytics.
Yeah.
I know there's a few Americans out there, so if you know, there's one person I'm thinking in particular that might know, so reach out and let us know.
Says they were initially invented for military
purposes.
Military use,
Makes sense.
It's not when the mountain lion leaps out at you, and whilst it's midair, you spin around and you grab your leg from your hip. Reminds me of. You ever seen Sharknado?
No, I've never seen it.
I've only seen one of those films. I think there's like 6. Is there how many? We need that. How many Sharknado films are there?
We're really utilising our Jamie wish.
Yeah. There's a scene. There's a scene where like a shark flies out of the tornado, and I think it's Nicolas Cage grabs like a chainsaw, and whilst the shark's in the air, like slices it in half.
How many?
There's 6.
There's six Sharknado films. Right.
Oh my god.
Marathon. It's going down.
Tonight. Oh my god, can you imagine? I would never sit through like all 6 of those films.
I don't think I could do it. Yeah.
That's going to be like one of my 12 labours now, is like, how many Sharknado films can you
sit through all Sharknado films back to back?
Jesus Christ, that's worse than the tyre flip marathon in my eyes.
Oh dude, I can't wait. I'm going to be on the sidelines with you doing that. I really want to make that possible. What's the date?
It's going to be, I'm having a few complications with getting the track and the venue and everything sorted, and trying to organise like the logistics of it. You think, the way I think, I've got a tyre, I want to flip it for a marathon, it's just about training and getting on with it. For it to be a Guinness World Record, they've sent me like I think it's like a 5-page document of all different requirements that I have to match to their letter for it to be considered. Or the other option is I pay them $10,500 to send someone out to watch. And it's like, I'm not paying $10,500 for that. So I have to have like a 24-hour video going. I need independent witnesses on a 4-hour rotation, 2 at a time. So every 4 hours, another 2 independent witnesses. And it's like, yeah, I might get a couple of independent witnesses. Like, you, Sam, can't come along to be like, yeah, he definitely did it. It needs to, the way they've described it is, it needs to be people that can sign your passport. So it's like you're looking at like people in these official positions and stuff. And it's like organising all of that and then getting a track. It has to be on an athletics track, it said, or I have to pay a surveyor to come out and check the surface and how level the ground is and the distance. And it's like, I don't want to pay for these things. I just want to do a physically hard challenge. But now I'm being dragged into the logistics and it's an absolute nightmare to arrange. But if everything goes well, it'll be the August bank holiday weekend. So that's like the Saturday the 24th till Monday the 26th. Somewhere in that period. 24-hour period, which I'm going to try and go for longer if I don't hit a marathon. But it's just, my A goal before was, this has been a switch that happened yesterday actually. When you've got like different races throughout a year, you've always got like your A race, your B race. My A race was going to be the marathon, and then the world record was secondary, like an added bonus. But because I'm having to put so much work and effort into this world record, I'm feeling like that's going to be the A goal, is make sure I do whatever it takes to get that world record. And then if I'm too physically fucked from rushing it to get the world record, I might not be able to push on to the marathon. So it's just which one's more important to me. That's what I'm battling with at the moment. So it's a tricky one, but one I've got to figure out pretty soon, because it's not as long as I thought it was.
Not long. What's that, 3 months, 4 months?
It's 18 weeks.
18 weeks. Yeah, so you're looking at like just over 4 months.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. That's cool, man. I reckon you've got it. Obviously, lots of, I've heard this is going to be a fact check again. I've heard that tire flipping is one of the best things you can do for your body. I've heard it's one of the because it works everything. I've heard it works everything. It's like a full body workout. It's not just like it's not just your back, legs, and.
Well, I was talking with someone that's got the duo world record for distance covered flipping a tyre. They did it as a pair, and they did a marathon, and it took them like 34 hours. And he was like, everyone was saying your grip's going to go and your lower back's going to go. And he was like, neither of those things went on me. But the DOMs he had on his core, he was like, I could not like sit up for like a week afterwards because my core was just wrecked. Because you mentioned this, didn't you? That, just a minute ago downstairs, you said, you're doing this challenge. I mean, I knew about it before, and the first thing I said, I was like, your lower back, man. Your lower back is going to feel that tyre. Yeah. It's going to, oh no. It's going to feel tired. Oh my God, mate. That was awful.
There goes 50% of the viewers.
Oh my God. They've all clocked out now. They're like, I'm done.
Dude, I'm not even a dad. Yeah. That's actually one thing I'm looking forward to.
Dad jokes.
I was going to say being a dad, but yeah, dad jokes as well, yeah.
That's why you're excited to be a dad, so you can just get away with dad jokes without everyone being like, come on, Ed. Yeah. You're like, I'm a dad, so dad jokes.
It's allowed. Yeah. Oh, man. But no, that's going to be a monumental mission. So that's part of your 12 labours?
Part of my 12 labours.
Fantastic.
Which I started showing you the original 12 before Jamie pulled up in his van. So we'll go over that again after, and I'll show you some of the additions, the changes I've made. And then at some point I will be looking for more to go onto that list, because I've had to cut some off. So I think I've got 9 at the moment, but I'm like, where I did 2 and then the others seem too easy, so I've had to make them harder. It's like, well, I don't want to then do these ones and then see my other ones as too easy, so then have to change it again. So I'm like, I'll just leave space to add on whatever I feel appropriate close to the time, sort of thing. But it's all linked with the story of Hercules. So, yeah, and I'm actually doing a virtual challenge series with Team Rockman. Second time I've mentioned it on the podcast
Nice. Now. Is that through Adventure Athletes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Adventure Athletes, we're teaming up with Team Rockman because I had Terry on my podcast and I've been on his podcast as well now, the Rockman podcast.
Yeah.
He does these virtual challenges based on like different like military selections and stuff like that. It's like a weekly challenge. You sign up for a month or you can pay a monthly subscription. But he's actually just released them for free as well now. So anyone can take part. You just don't get on the leaderboard and you don't get a pip. But he wants to make it accessible to people. So I'm going to do a series with him where you're going to get like a separate like pip, and it like
Wait,
it's
so,
not
sorry,
gonna be,
what's a pip?
So it's like a little diamond, like embroidered patch.
Oh, like it, yeah. Okay. Nice. So you're going to get a pip, you mentioned.
Yeah. So you'll get a pip and. You'll get set these challenges, and all the money that's raised through that, like there's obviously the costs, which I'm giving to Terry so he can cover the costs of it, and then all the profit from it is going to go to my BigMoose fundraiser as well, so I get no money from it. Like I'm not benefiting from it. I just want to make this thing. It's going to be a series of 12 challenges to basically take anyone from where they are to living a more adventure athlete lifestyle in the period of a year. So like what if you sign up for one a month, then you've got 12 challenges following the story of Hercules. So it'll give you like information about Hercules' labours, give you more information about mine, and it will set you your own challenge for that month that you have to complete.
So just to clarify, so Adventure Athletes is offering this as like as something that people can get. Like it's a way for people to get involved and become more of an adventure athlete themselves.
Yeah.
They can, start looking at their own 12 challenges that then will morph them into their own form of Hercules.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And I really wanted to bring this up on the podcast because we were talking the other day about what even is an adventure athlete, and like people ask me it all the time and I'm always like, well, I don't really know, but like the way I've started describing it is someone that is trying to creating a difference in their own life to benefit the world around them, sort of thing. And that kind of sticks with like my mentality, like the whole thing of parkour, air très fort pour être utile, be strong to be useful,
be strong to be able,
and then doing like all of that sort of stuff. And I'm like, that fits the mentality. But then you messaged me after Grant's 100-miler and a message that he sent in the group chat.
I loved that message. Oh my God, I loved that message.
Yeah.
My phone's downstairs, but I mean, it went along. Should I recite it? It's best to my knowledge.
Do it.
Okay. It was something along the lines of, because I said to him, I said, Grant, if you get stuck halfway through, drop a message in the chat and we'll hurl positive abuse at you, and you'll get over the line. We'll do it together if you need it. Yeah. And I think his reply to that was, boys, I'm going to suffer. I'm going to suffer through it, and I know that, and I want that because I'm suffering on my own terms, and I'm going to get to the finish line one way or another. It was along those lines. I can't remember exactly how the message was, but it was like, I know I'm going to suffer, and I'm going to find joy in that.
Yeah, he's going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to suffer, but I'm going to enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah. And come out of it stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this to me is what, and to me, being an adventure athlete is finding joy in what you decide suffering is. It's suffering on your own terms. And for me, that's long distance cycling, I think, and fear. Like when I was in the middle of that wilderness and I was experiencing that fear of being so isolated and vulnerable, it was wavering between me not enjoying it and enjoying it. But I was still loving it, I think, really deep down. I was just afraid of what might happen if it really did go south. And I do feel like sometimes as adventure athletes, no, because you know the limit. You know the limit. I think if you become an adventure athlete properly, you know where the limit is. And occasionally you can maybe start to do something that might push that level, but you always know that you're past that point. And I think learning to become an adventure athlete is very much about risk analysis. I love anything that involves risk analysis, like finding where the limit is and not going further and just touching it and being like, okay, that's how deep my level goes, you know?
Yeah.
And like knowing that if I go beyond that, that could be dangerous or that could result in this. And I feel like once you know that, when you know how deep the level gets, you look back on your life when you're in the normal everyday moments that a lot of people do feel anxiety in, and you go, wow, that's actually not worth worrying about because I've got this monumental understanding of like how deep risk can get.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I could probably elaborate on that better, but
I feel like it really goes along with the sort of trends that I see from doing this podcast and talking to people that have done these incredible things. And I've always tried to touch on it with people, but never built a full picture in my head of it, of like, why does someone that I consider an adventure athlete become an adventure athlete? And they've always gone through something. There's always been some form of like traumatic event, or they've done something that's reached rock bottom, and then they've tried to like 180 that and be like, no, this isn't it, this isn't me. Like there's so many different examples out there, but then I've always tried to get out, well, why can't everyone do this? Why are they like stuck in that comfortable zone? And a thing that you was saying to me through chat was along the lines of like, we're trying to get people to expand that. Essentially, we're trying to expand their comfort zone, get them to push out there. That's what this community is about, and it's not going to be about getting everyone doing like cycling across California and like going 20k through animal infested tracks. We're not trying to encourage that. We're not trying to encourage you to flip a tire for a marathon. Like that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you need to set yourself challenges that expands on that limit that you've seen. Like, yeah, everyone sees a limit and they're like, there's risk past that, but we're just trying to push that a little bit further and see what's just outside of it. We're not trying to do a full 180 and be like, go from not training to flipping a tire for a marathon. Like that's stupid and reckless and you'll hurt yourself. What we are saying is, let's see how far we can go. What can we do? And I always then link that into being strong to be useful, using our limit and what we've trained ourselves to do to benefit in other people around us and having a greater impact on the world through sharing stories is a great one, which is where this podcast has come from.
Yeah, for sure. I've been putting a lot of thought into what is a like and what is a view, because I've noticed something very interesting, because I constantly am battling between real world impact and perceived impact and what a view is, because lots of people chase views and lots of people chase likes, myself included. We've all been there. We've all tried to go viral or do something that's like, oh, people are going to love this. But what actually is a like? And I've been thinking about it recently, and I invite everybody to think about what a like actually is, because you can like something for it being really intense and it makes you flinch and go, oh my god, and you think, oh, that was like, I like that because it's mad, or maybe you share that with a friend, or you like something that's just so extreme, but then you can also like something because it's so wholesome, but it's using the same measure of like it's using the same scale. It's like, I don't know, it's like using the same currency to kind of express your likeness of something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'd be like just everything costing the same is essentially what you're saying. There's no sort of differentiation. So if I went to pay for something that I wanted, like there's food that I need, I pay £20. If there's like a game that I want, I pay £20. There's no difference in the value of it. A like's a like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the same way that you can go and spend your money at a restaurant, you can go and spend your money on a computer game. You can like a video of someone doing a triple backflip on a BMX bike, but you can also like a video of like a cat that's doing something really sweet and cute. But like you're liking them in different ways, and when you think about, I like this because it's a political campaign that I back or something, or I like this because it's, again, like a cat video, we're using the same metric of how much you like something, across the board. And I do wonder, like, you know, we're chasing getting these likes. A lot of people they want to get likes, they want to get views, you know, for what motivation. It makes you feel validated, makes you feel this, makes you feel that. But like, you can end up posting things that get lots of likes for negative reasons, and you can get addicted to getting the likes.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think it's potentially dangerous. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with this, but you know what I mean?
How would you then change someone's mindset into how they can provide value for others? Because I feel like that's what you're sort of going along the lines of, is like the like isn't providing value to someone, it's just showing that it's like something that people interact with.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how would you then measure the value of that?
Actually, I know where I'm going with this, and I know why I'm thinking about it. So, I was posting loads of really like wholesome, lovely content for Soluna. You know, talking about like anxiety, loneliness, sharing, you know, thoughts and feelings, and you know, you'd get a few likes and things. People would be interacting and engaging, and you know, finding value in that, because they know they're not alone. They're going through anxiety. They're seeing the content. They're saying, hey, I resonate with that. And maybe they take a little nugget of information out of it all. But then I shared this video of a dog chasing me, and it went like viral. I'm talking like 200 million views across all platforms. Like, just really, and that's 200 million views combined across all platforms. And then I was looking at the disparity between what people have liked to the point of it going viral versus the wholesome aspect of, you know, like the wholesome anxiety based, that in my opinion, the valuable content, you know, and people just saw the thing that was like so extreme, and they liked that and then shared it and liked it and shared it amongst all their friends because it was so wild, and so like it creates this emotive response of like, oh my god, this guy's getting chased by a giant dog, you know. And then you think, well, all of this really loving, caring stuff has not got the same treatment. And I don't know, it did make me a little sad, truthfully, but I know we did a lot of good, you know. I know we did a massive amount of good, because when you actually look at different metrics, like the number of people that actually used the Soluna helpline and downloaded the Soluna app, you know, completely different picture. Loads of support was given, like, fantastic.
And this is where, as sort of creators, like I'm in creation space, I've got a podcast, I post on socials constantly. This is where we need to separate the value we provide to the metrics we use to measure success. The amount of people that I've had now, and I'm saying this from a place where I was chasing those metrics, because you're a content creator, you want to reach as many people as you can, you want to see, right, this is why I'm doing this. And I've now, like, although I still post regularly, I'm nowhere near as strict as I was with my Instagram posts before, because I don't care about the likes that I'm getting. What I care about is the messages I get from people that are like, I'm now training because of you, I'm now keeping fit, I'm now like changing the way I see the world, and having that perspective change in people's lives. And I don't get it often, but I get it enough now that it's like, that's why I'm doing this. It's got nothing to do with how many followers I've got or how many likes I've got. It is purely for those like loyal listeners that are having a real, like, they're really getting value from what I'm posting.
That is wonderful, and that's exactly like the disparity that I felt this like weirdness, you know, of like getting so much positive, well, not even positive, just getting so much response from a video that in my opinion wasn't valuable. And then you know, well, I mean, it was valuable because it showed a scary dog chasing me down, which was terrifying.
I know exactly what video it is as well, because I saw it.
It was wild. People just stealing that and posting it, and news stations were trying to contact me. I mean, I spoke to loads of news stations about Soluna as well. You know, I spoke on ABC, I think it was, which was really cool. That was great to like share the word of Soluna about that, because like it was it's a government program, Soluna, and it's like a whole. It's like the NHS. If the NHS over here launched a mental health service for the whole of the UK, it's like the equivalent of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely honoured to be a part of that. And we did share the word of Soluna far and wide. It's so cool.
Yeah.
But that freaking dog video.
I had a thought then, and it's gone. Oh yeah, that was a similar experience I had a few years ago. I say a few years ago, it was probably like 6-7 years ago now. Me and a couple of friends went homeless to raise money for homeless people in our local area coming up to Christmas. So during the month of November, we spent 7 days sleeping on the streets. No money, just literally had a sleeping bag, and then I had a GoPro to record some experiences we had. But other than that was it. Like, we was sleeping on the streets. It was absolutely freezing. Really getting a feel for what it's like being homeless and begging for money and things like that. And yes, we was begging for money. A lot of that went into like helping us sustain ourselves because we needed to eat and drink, obviously. But anything else that we raised then went into the fundraising as well. So we didn't buy anything nice with that money. It was just, this is fundraising for homeless. And there was one clip that was filmed from it where because we decided we didn't want to go with a charity because we couldn't see where the money was going. So it was like, we're going to put together these packs. We bought bags, we bought warm clothes, we bought food, and we put some money in each bag as well. I think we had something like 50 plus bags in total that we ended up going round our local area and giving to the homeless people that we knew. So we just went around giving out these bags, and there was a clip that went viral where we gave a jacket or one of these presents with the bags in, and this guy got out this jacket and he puts it on and he's looking at himself in a reflection of a window and he's dancing and he's so happy that he got it.
Yeah.
And it went viral so many times. And recently, considering this was like 6-7 years ago, my mum sent me that exact clip being like, isn't this yours? And I was like, yeah. She was like, look how many views this got. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. She was like, they haven't even given you credit. Like, I'm going to comment. I'm like, what good's that going to do? Like, commenting, being like, that's my son.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
give him credit.
Hey, that's my son right there.
And it's like,
He did that. Yeah.
It's like, I don't care. I don't want the credit for that video. What I care about is the value that guy's got from
that guy
that.
got it, yeah.
And the happiness. And every time I see that clip, I always laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, that makes me happy.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing that, like, on the flip side of this, like, irrelevant of the value stuff, there is a bit of sadness to that story where that guy, the year after, passed away, sadly.
No. What?
So that guy in the video, he passed away a year after filming. I'm not sure of what, but we just got a message on.
Oh,
it was the second time the video went viral.
Yeah.
Of a woman that knew him being like, oh yeah, like, sadly this guy's now passed away. He had his funeral last week.
Man.
But
Bless. Yeah.
yeah,
That sucks. Just can't see those curveballs.
Yeah,
That's
no.
wild. It's a difficult one. The whole likes and views versus value. I find it really fascinating to think about. And one thing that I think people shouldn't get caught up in is seeking that validation.
Yeah.
If you're doing good, you're doing good. In the real world, you're doing good. And what I mean by that is you are doing good actions. You're giving out a coat to a homeless person, you know. And it's a weird thing. Sharing that on social media, it's like you're almost seeking validation for the thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, not quite. Obviously, you're doing a good thing. Because there was a point actually where I met a homeless man out in San Francisco, and I met him, and I also have a real soft spot for homelessness. And he said, "Hey, brother, do you mind if I use your phone to contact my family?" And I was there thinking, "Oh my God, if I couldn't speak to my family, I would be absolutely gutted."
yeah,
And I was really struggling to. I mean, I wanted to do good. Soluna had given me the opportunity to go out into the world and do some good. That's what they'd given me. I'm so thankful that they gave me that opportunity. And sometimes I don't know if I directed it in exactly the way they wanted me to. Because I saw this guy and I was thinking, oh my God, if I couldn't speak to my family, I'd be lost. I'd be losing myself, you know? And so I was thinking, because Soluna were looking for content to increase views on their campaign and this kind of thing, because they want people to know about Soluna. And I was there thinking, well, this guy needs support, and I'm going to give this guy some support. So I bought him a phone, like a cheap phone, but something that works, so that he could speak to his family and reconnect with his family. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, this will make a good video to like showcase that Soluna's out here actually on the streets doing good, like doing something that's useful, and helping a person. And I really helped that guy out, gave him the phone, helped him out find some food and stuff like that. And I remember at the end of the day, I was thinking like, oh my God, have I actually directed the support in the right place? And it's weird, isn't it? Like, because none of what I filmed that day I could have used for content, because it wasn't in line with what Soluna expected the support to be, and I could have maybe directed my time better. So I remember cycling away from that day thinking, I've given help to somebody, but it's not the help that I should have given, but I know that it was the right thing to do and my heart was in the right place. And it's hard when you've got, it's hard when you're trying to do good in the right way, but all good is good.
Yeah.
And I think it's a learning process. And when you're put in that position where you can do good and you have the opportunity to do good, I think try your best to put it in the right place. But if somebody is resonating with you on a human level, just do what's right.
Yeah. I think with my story, going back to the homeless, like raising money and giving out the presents and having that video go viral, every time I look through the comments, there's so many people being like, oh, why'd you film it? Like, if you was really a good person, you wouldn't have filmed it. And it creates that barrier sometimes, because I get where they're coming from. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, look how good I am doing this thing.
Yeah. But
that's not why we filmed the content. Like, we filmed it because we had a lot of donations from like companies as well. And it was like, no, we want to show them what we've done with their money. We want to be transparent and be like, this is what you guys have done. We didn't film all the interactions we had, and we gave out a lot more than people realised. But it was like, we're just trying to do a good thing and then show people, like, yeah, if we'd just gone out and bought the things and then been like, yeah, here's your present, I kind of get that. But the fact that we went homeless to raise money for it is a testament to what we were doing in the first place. And I know we did like a local newspaper and things like that, but like I didn't seek out any media attention. Like I didn't care about any of it. It was like, I just want to raise some money and give back to the homeless. Like they're struggling. It's coming up to Christmas. It's freezing in the UK around Christmas. Like, let's give them some warm clothes and some food and things that is going to be useful for them. And we knew what to get because we'd asked the homeless guys, was like, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you need?
What's going to be... And that's why that guy was so happy with his jacket. He hadn't had we'd spoken to him. He was like, I haven't had a new jacket in 3 years. And we was like, that is going to be the best thing we can get you. Like, that is what you want the most out of anything. So it wasn't was just buying random stuff and giving it out. Like, we was giving them exactly what they needed. One guy needed a tin opener. He's like, I've got so much tin food that people are donating me, but I don't have a way to open it. I was like, tin opener. There we go. Like, such a small thing that we take for granted.
Yeah, it means
really
so much.
Improved their day.
Yeah, it means so much.
And it's just like, we weren't doing it to seek that validation, but that's all the comments you get. And then that creates like a barrier in yourself, and it's like, I just want it to do good.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard. And the way I sort of see things like that now is, if you've done good, like the person that's received the good act has had something done for them, so that's one reason to do it. You then get the feeling of being good because you've done a good thing for someone else. So you get that feeling, and then knowing that you've done a good thing as well, like just the act of the good thing in itself. From doing one thing, you've got three things from it. Why seek a fourth? Why seek validation? Why seek something in return? Because so many people are like, you could do me a favour, and then I'll be like, oh, cheers, Ed, you've saved my life, like you've helped me move house or something. But then you might then turn around like a year later and be like, oh, remember that time I did this for you? Like, do this for me, please. And you have that expectation of having a good thing done in return. And it's like, that's not how we should be looking at it.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I agree with you so much. I don't think anybody should ever do something good with the expectation that they're going to get something back.
Yeah.
I feel like that's quite a toxic way, unless it's agreed. Unless you're like maybe doing it in business. You say, I'm going to do this, and then you're going to get this. I think that's then really important. Like that's fine, but you're agreeing that beforehand. If you're ever going to do that, do it beforehand, 100%.
But I feel like that's where like good, genuine relationships come from. Like with like Sam now, I know there's been times where we've been out and I've been like, don't worry, mate, I've got the food. I've paid for his food. There's other times where I've been out with him and he's been like, nah, you got it last time. I'll get this one. But there's not an expectation to do that. Every single time we do that for each other, it's just like, well, I know I'm in a better position than you right now. I'm going to help you out. Yeah. And we're not expecting anything in return. But then I know if he's ever struggling, I'm there for him. I've got him. Yeah, for sure. As much as I'm capable of.
Yeah, those are the best relationships. Those are the best relationships. You know, there's people that care about fairness in many different types of ways. And I learned this with my good close friend, my good friend Jacob, actually. So Jacob, if you're listening, so this one goes out to you. So me and Jacob both care about fairness. Jacob cares about fairness in the moment. So he cares about splitting dinner after dinner. I care about fairness at the end of the wider trip or something, you know. So I went out to Turkey with Jacob as like a New Year's thing one time. It was like this really cool sport climbing holiday. I love sport climbing, one of my favourite hobbies aside from cycling. And went out to Turkey with him to experience some of the culture. And I remember we had a disagreement. We had a falling out, and it was a little heated, for sure. And it was about like fairness and money and like splitting things fairly. And I said to Jacob, don't worry about it. We'll split it at the end. Let's just like relax in the moment. We'll split it at the end. And Jacob was like, no, we'll do it now so that way we don't have to split at the end. And it made me realize in that moment that we both cared about fairness and we're arguing about how fair we could be. Who can be the fairest, you know? And it's like, man, as long as you both get to the conclusion at the end of the day, you know, I see it as like there might be cash involved, there might be like 10 lira that's missed or something at the very end. But he's like one of my closest friends, he's my best friend. Like, I'm not going to be sat there thinking, oh, you owe me this. Like, I might be £100 down to him, or he might be £100 down to me right now in this very moment that I'm speaking to you. But like, when I die, I'm not going to be sat there thinking, oh my God, Jacob owes me £100. Like, I'm just not. Yeah. I would rather be relaxed, and as long as there's like a reasonable amount of care from both people's side, that's fine with me. Yeah. Fine with me.
As long as it's not all take.
Yes.
Then you're onto a winner.
You're onto a winner.
That's where I sit when it comes to monetary value. It's like, as long as there's an equal level of respect around it, you're not taking the piss. But like, I've had it where I've been on the giving end too much, where people have been in need, and I'm like, look, I'm in a better position than you. Like, I'm being paid more, working more hours, like I've got more financial backing to me and security, whereas you're a bit more unstable. I'm gonna help you in this time. And then, like, just thinking, like, I'm doing this good thing for someone, but then they're sort of being like, oh, but I'm just going to keep owing you. And I'm like, you don't owe me a thing. Like, I'm helping you out here. That's all I care about. There's no value in that money to me over a friendship. But then I know that they've then stopped talking to me because, like, and it sounds weird because it's like, if anything, if you're going by these expectations, they're the one that owe me. But they've stopped talking to me because they don't want that feeling of owing someone either. And that's like broken the relationship down. And then every time I'm like asking them for a favour, I'm like, oh, is there any chance you could help me out here? They're like, oh, Well, I can't really, because like they're not in the position to, but then they feel like obliged to because I've done something for them before.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not expecting you to. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
it
just,
can get tricky sometimes, can't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it puts those boundaries in a relationship, which can be quite difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
So it's about having, like you're saying, having that understanding beforehand on how each person operates.
Yeah.
And then that makes everything a lot easier to navigate later on.
But you have to go through those hard times with those people to understand how they operate. Yeah. Like, I learned that time, in that moment with Jacob, I learned that's how he works. So now every time I go out with Jacob, I'm always like, hey man, let's split this straight after. And it just works now. Yeah. Because it's fair, Like, I just think it's like good to just know how people work. And actually, so do you remember earlier when I mentioned my best friend coming out to me? I've just done it, haven't I? And this is going to sound ridiculous. I'm sure loads of people can relate to this. I have two best friends. I couldn't choose a best man out of these two guys. It's a wonderful problem to have. I don't want to go into this on the podcast. I probably shouldn't. It feels weird. I love them both exactly the same. Oh, and I could never choose a best man because I'd always be upset to hurt the other, So I'd choose my brother as my best man. But I was out with. Oh God, I just feel weird now. Oh, it's so weird. Oh, I do really, truly love them both exactly the same. I could never pick out of them, like, just for the sake of having one. It's just so stupid. Why do you have to have a best friend? It's just stupid. Like, you have friends that are really, really close to you. They're your best friends. Yeah. I love them both the same. Anyway, so I was out with Paul. And you remember earlier in the podcast I mentioned that Paul came out and he's the one that really pulled me out of that really tough mindset. It's not useful when your mindset's that tough. You're just making wrong decisions. He pulled me out of that when I said, we're going to push through the storm for like 2 days and do 1 day's worth of progress across 2 days and get soaking wet and cold. He pulled me out of it and he said, Ed, what are you doing? And in that moment, he was like, Ed, I'm going to run you a bath, right? So we stayed in a place and he was like, I'm going to run you a bath. So he did exactly that. We stayed in a place and he was like, dude, there's a bath, run for you. And I was like, man, fucking love that. Like, love it. Love you. And I got in that bath and I was in there and I was like, man, I'm going to run him a bath. And I think there's a wonderful thing with give and take and friendships and just like value is whatever you want it to be. It could be a bath, it could be a it could be whatever. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to get something deep here, but it's not. It's just
just rambling by.
Just rambling. Yeah.
That's what I love about our chats, bro. They go on these insane tangents.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good sort of place to start wrapping things up.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that I've started doing with every single guest is at the end of each episode, I get them to set a challenge for the listeners for the week.
Yeah.
What would your challenge be to the listeners?
One challenge for the listeners. Okay. So there's something that's been... I'm going to go on a small story here. There's something that's been life-changing for me, and it was really small. And it was like a thing that revolves around discipline. So every morning, I would make myself a coffee with my little cafetiere. It's like those things you put on the stove. And I would never wash it up. And I'd come downstairs the next day, and it would be full of yesterday's coffee. And it would just be like, I just had to like clean it every morning, Like I had to clean it, then like sort it all out before making my coffee, instead of just taking it out the cupboard and making my coffee. And the thing that really changed my life is I started washing it up after I had used it. And that to me symbolizes looking after my future self. And I think my challenge to whoever's viewing this podcast, whoever's listening right now, find something in your life where you can look after your future self and do that. And just see if you can make a habit of looking after your future self.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing. Just before we do completely wrap it up, what's next for you? Where can people follow you? And tell us about your e-bike.
Oh yeah, oh my God. So next week, I decided this morning. Next week, I'm cycling for 24 hours straight from the London Eye. By the time you hear this, it'll already be done and dusted, and I'll be recovering. So I'm going to be taking an e-bike from this wonderful company, DYU. They've sent an e-bike and asked me to do a challenge with it of any kind. My challenge is going to be taking it to the London Eye and then cycling from the London Eye as far away in 24 hours as I can and seeing how far I get. So I'm going to head towards Land's End. Google Maps says it's going to take 28 hours to get to Land's End. So I'm wondering if the electric bike can like make up that time or something. I'm not sure if it will, because I know that on Google Maps, when it says 28 hours, that's 28 hours of straight cycling. That's like not stopping at all. So it's going to be tough to actually get all of the way to Land's End. But what would be really nice is if I could get to at least Dartmoor. That would be really cool. If I can get to Dartmoor, I'll be really happy. And I'm just going to try and push through an all-nighter and see who fails first, the electric bike or me. That's the plan.
Yeah. Where can people go to find out? Because, like you said, once this is out, it'll already have been and gone. Where can people go to find out how far you got?
People can go to Hackers Out There on Instagram and YouTube. It's going to become a YouTube video, and I'll turn it into some Instagram shorts as well. So Hack is Out There, all one word, on Instagram and YouTube. And yeah, I'm very excited for this challenge because it's the first time I'm not much of an all-nighter kind of person. I don't do these 24-hour challenges. I've seen some of the other adventure athletes doing it. Grant, amazing athlete. Yourself, amazing athlete, doing these 24-hour, 17-hour, 36-hour days where it's like you don't stop. I've not really done that. I've not really tried that. So with this e-bike, it's time to learn how intense it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see where it goes. And yeah, thanks again for coming on, Ed. Always a pleasure, mate.
Always a pleasure, Will. Great to be here.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. If you want to find out more about our guests, check out the links in the description below, where you'll also find a link to our website, our socials, and my BigMoose fundraiser. Let us know in the comments who you want to hear from next, and we'll try and get them booked on as best we can. And if you want to get involved with anything Adventure Athletes, we've got so many things going on. We've got our programming that we'll do for people trying to take their next step into their own personal adventures. We'll do sports massage. We've got events that we're organising both online and in person, and we've got some different activity days based around getting you outdoors and learning something new. So if you want to get involved, check out the website. If you want to find out more about the guest, check out the links in the description. And yeah, let us know who you want on next.